So maybe the way we thought it was shaping up is not going to turn out to be the way that it shapes up at the top and the bottom of the Premier League table. Darren Lewis is here and Tim Sherwood is with us as well. But we have to start, Benty, by looking at that Garnacho goal again. I know we've already seen it, but it's just fantastic, isn't it? And there's been lots of discussions, because everything has to be a competition, about whether it's the best overhead kick in the Premier League ever. And this is the one that comes out in second or first place, depending on how people see it. I mean, look, the 2 points of difference here are, one, it hits Wayne Rooney's shin. I'm not going to say shinned it, because that would be and two, it was against Manchester City. So, you know, there's an argument in both cases. What do you think? Yeah,
I mean, context, you look at the Manchester derby, Rooney's goal was incredible, but then you look at Garnacho, young kid, making obviously an impact in the Premier League. I know it's against Everton, who are at the bottom of the table, but Rooney's, for me, probably just pips it, even if it was his shin. But for Garnacho and the confidence that he's shown to even do that on that occasion, being given opportunities in the first team, I prefer the strike because it comes off his foot, whereas it's Rooney's shin. But I think the context of the game, I'm still going to go with Rooney just.
I'm going Rooney because he has to adjust his position. If you look at it again, Rooney's one, it takes a deflection. So he's preparing for something completely different, where there's Garnacho watches that ball from Dalot, watches it all the way. And probably 1 second after it leaves his foot, he knows exactly what he's going to do, whereas Wayne has to adjust his position again and then overhead kick. It was fantastic. For me, it's got to give it to Rooney.
You've got to go for the one with the story, no?
Actually, I would, yeah. No, Rooney, because of the size, the occasion, the attempt. I mean, it is a little bit like Evel Knievel, you know, you get paid for the attempt. And I think as far as he's concerned, to even have the confidence to try that is fantastic. And it doesn't really matter that it comes off his shin. The fact is that at that stage, with all that focus on him as a player to try that, brilliant. I think Garnacho's is the better connection. And the stakes are high, even though it is, in theory, a lesser team in Everton. The stakes are high in terms of the game and the fact that it's at Goodison as well. So there had been pressure on Man United. But I think as far as Rooney is concerned, it kind of cemented the position that he'd been in for a long time as an outstanding player.
Yeah, it was just a really special goal. And you know, it's not taking anything away from Alejandro Garnacho to say that Wayne Rooney's maybe just edges it because it was a winner in a Manchester derby. You know, you said that you scored some of them in Sunday League football. And I probably had a fair few in training as well. Yeah, that nobody has on camera. Yeah, I bet. But this is the closest we could find. This is when you were at Derby. So we've got we didn't get the full footage because you didn't score from it. No. But that was kind of your attempt at it. But that's fairly acrobatic.
So you got paid for the attempt as well.
Even if it went the angle of my foot as well, I'm not even sure where the ball ends up.
Yeah. That grass there, about like 2 foot, surely. Them guys were 6 foot in the air.
The thing is, Tim, I wouldn't be too... Go on.
I know why he done that, because he didn't want to edit. I remember once saying to Benny, we're going to do some heading. He goes, no, man, I ain't doing that. He's the clever one.
But the thing is, you can't take the mickey too much, because we found your closest attempt to an overhead kick, and that's probably about as far up as you got.
Do you know what that was? That was actually a tackle. He just put the ball in there just so it looked like it. That's as high as my leg went, and still does.
Darren, we haven't got any pictures of yours.
Thankfully.
But I've heard it was fantastic. But look, it was a great way to start that game with that goal. But really, as we said, you know, and we'll come back to that game between Man United and Everton, because it was significant in terms of what happens at the bottom of the table. But it feels like everything's shifting a bit in the Premier League at the moment. We thought maybe City were going to be able to claw it back after having had a mini blip. The draw against Chelsea, the draw against Liverpool now, and the fact that they look vulnerable has set things up really nicely. And the fact that Arsenal get a late winner in the way that they did in a game that didn't really have that much about it against the Brentford side that, as always, are difficult to play against.
No, I think for City, it's definitely maybe a little bit of hangover from last season. I mean, that takes a lot. They're going for the 4 in a row as well, which has never been done, and the treble last season. And Arsenal, I mean, you look at where they are in terms of top of the table. I don't think they've even started playing well either this season. They've certainly not hit the heights they hit last season. It's a little bit stodgy at times. There've been injuries, lack of form in certain players, but they find themselves top, and that's, I guess, as a top side, you want to be doing, not playing very well, but find yourself up there is fantastic from their perspective. But again, you can never, ever, for me, rule out Manchester City. I know, as you said, the Chelsea result, the result against Liverpool, but they're one team in the Premier League. I believe that if they have to go and win 10 games in a row, they can go and win 10 games in a row. Yeah. They've still got injuries. De Bruyne has still got to come back. Even Haaland, who's still top goal scorer in the Premier League, I wouldn't say he's been as good as he was last season. I know his numbers suggest that he is.
He'll be missing De Bruyne as well, won't he?
Exactly. Yeah. So I still think Manchester City, although they're not where they probably expected to be, for me, they're still the team to beat.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we're looking at the moment, is where the fact that they're so close means that it is open, the title race. And you could argue that none of them have consistently showed their best form throughout the season. It just feels that Manchester City have another level to reach than the other teams.
Absolutely, I think they're ready to go. It was a great weekend for the Premier League. You know, everyone's bunching up, and what we need this weekend is Tottenham to go to the Etihad and win. You know, everyone from the Premier League probably wants that for the neutral. I think it's one of the best, most competitive leagues we've had for a long time. I think they still will win the league. I honestly believe that. Like Benty, on a 10, 15 game unbeaten run. You know, they change gear when they come into March. You know, it looks March, April, they just stick the games together, and it's sickening for everyone else looking in. Liverpool, I think they're still capable. I really do. I think that Jurgen's done a good job. I was really questioning them last season. I thought possibly it might be the end of his tenure there. They might need a change.
Hang on. You predicted that.
I predicted, yeah. I thought after 7 years, I just think, could he bring him back? But I think keeping Mo Salah, giving him Szoboszlai, giving him McAllister, giving him the tools what he wanted. I still think the midfield mix is not correct. I think they need a number 6 in there, and that would help them out massively. But I think they backed you.
The financial backing to be able to do that. If they can ally that away form to their home form, who's to say they won't be in the mix? And when you look at the points, as we were looking at a second ago, there is everything to suggest that there could be a surprise this season. Because nobody, we say that City always win the league, but no one's ever done it 4 times in a row. Yeah, everyone's done it, but everyone knows that Bayern have done it 4 times in a row twice over the past decade. City have never done it 4 times in a row in this league, and that's why I still do think, you know, every time I come in here, I always say City are going to win it. Yeah, but this time around, I think there could be drama this year.
Yeah, and what we want is a title race that goes right down to the wire as well. We love all that last day drama and cameras at various different grounds waiting to see exactly what's going to... You know, the Premier League trophy with replicas here and sitting in a helicopter waiting to fly out to waiting to fly out to be delivered to the title-winning captain. But it is potentially on the cards for Arsenal. They're the ones in pole position at the moment. Weren't at their best against Brentford, but they got the win. So what are they looking at? Where do they need to improve as we look into the kind of later stages of the season? Well,
I think Tim mentioned it there. I think the firepower is an issue. I think Saka and Martinelli, these guys are fantastic. They're fine. They'll get their numbers. But I think the centre-forward issue is going to be a problem. Like, they brought Jesus in, who's a good player, not a goal scorer, really good footballer, creates opportunities. And it was even times against Brentford where I'm watching the game and he's playing wide left, crossing the balls in the box, and I'm thinking, well, no, that's where you need to be.
And that is true, isn't it? Because normally when a team wins a league, you've got a 20, 25 goal a season striker. Then you've got goals from midfield, double figures, maybe one. I think about Chelsea when they had goals from Lampard, but also Drogba up front. You think about United when Scholes would score so often from midfield, Giggs, Beckham. I'm going way too far back, but that's for the older ones. You know, every time a team does win the league, you've got the goals from midfield as well as goals from attack. I'm not seeing that with Arsenal at the moment, and I think they do need another striker, which is why there has been all that talk about Ivan Toney.
But that's the thing, you said there, Saka, Martinelli will get theirs. Odegaard's had a really quiet, by his standards last season, he has had a really quiet season. His standards haven't been where they were last season, so they're talking about investing heavily in January. I think Ivan Toney, or even someone like Ollie Watkins I've spoke about, now Aston Villa are never letting him go because he is vital, as you spoke about earlier, to what they're going to do. So I think that's one area that Arsenal need to strengthen. It's that centre-forward, and that then becomes Gabriel Jesus can play right or left. I don't know what happens to Eddie Nketiah. Maybe he's used in the deal, but they certainly need a centre-forward that's going to put the ball in the net.
You know, I always ask a question when I come with this bit. See, Havertz just scored that goal there, right? Have you two, either of you two, worked with players who they've taken a bit of time when they've joined a new club to score goals, but once they've started, that's a turning point, they can't stop? I mean, could that be the case for Havertz?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think Mikel was taking him over there to introduce him to the Arsenal fans, wasn't he? I mean, it's been about time. I mean, there's a lot of money and they ain't seen nothing, and nor have I. I mean, the boy don't even know where his best position is, and Mikel certainly doesn't know.
But is that his fault, do you think, with Havertz?
He says he doesn't know what his best position is. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
If you've got a player saying it himself, I don't know what my best position is. And then what chance have you got if you're Mikel? You know, I think he's an 8, but he needs to go and get the ball back. He's not as good as Odegaard, for me. He's not going to play in there in front of Declan Rice, that's for sure. Trossard affects the game a lot more. His assists and goals, what he does. So where do you find a place for him? Now, hopefully, he scores big goals. That's a big goal for Arsenal. Huge goal. He scored in the Champions League final for Chelsea. He's capable. We know he is. But is he good enough to give him no defensive responsibility and play as a 10? I don't think he is. He's not Dennis Bergkamp.
I remember when I was a journalist covering Spurs, you managed Spurs, you had Soldado, you had Adebayor, you had a couple of others, and you were persevering with them. Soldado was a big money signing, and he just wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
And eventually you accepted that actually you just had to bring this young kid in, Kane, and he obviously did.
He did all right, didn't he?
Where's he now?
But Havertz seems to be responding to Arteta. There's a big difference, isn't there?
Well, I think he realises... I honestly believe he's never going to go to a bigger club than what he's at. Not from here. You know, I don't care. He's not going to go to Bayern Munich, in my opinion. Do you know, he's not going to go over there. He's at one of the biggest clubs he's ever going to play for. He needs to put his finger out. He needs to start showing it. And it's all right. Look, foreign players take a lot of time. Any player moving clubs, Darren will tell you, it takes time to settle. But come on. You know, you've been there long enough. The manager's trying to help you out. The other players are trying to help him out. They play a style of football which you think would suit him, but we just can't nail down a position. And I think it's up to Mikel to find him a position, tell him he's going to play, give him a run of games, give him the confidence. Hopefully that confidence of scoring that goal there against Brentford will help. But at the moment, I would say I'll be looking, if anyone wanted to offer me money for him, I would be taking the money and putting it elsewhere because he's not done it.
Do you know, sorry, Kel, there's another thing as well. You said there, Tim, you're right. It's hard when you move clubs. Certainly when a foreign player comes to the Premier League. But this guy's been in England now for a while now. He played for Chelsea. I know it's a different system. And he's come to Arsenal. And Arsenal last season played with an intensity which out the traps really, really fast. They haven't done it this season, but even though he's still a bit slow, he still can't get up to speed, which is why you said there, Trossard, he can play because he plays with that intensity. He's not going to play wide instead of Martinelli or Saka because these guys have got that intensity, they know exactly what they're doing. He almost ambles in between. Like, he's not as fast as Odegaard, he's not as quick as Saka, but everything's quite laboured and quite lacklustre. And I think that's how he plays, and that's not a criticism against him. But when you're a fan watching it, it looks like he's not at the races because everyone else is ratting around doing what they need to do, and he's kind of going half pace. What exactly is he doing? And that's going against him.
But you do see them players, and they've got that star quality, and they've got that guile, and they've got the slow the ball down. Yeah, they do have it. But this boy looks like he's almost too cool to sweat. You know, he looks like, well, I'm going to look like I'm not trying. And but the fans are looking at him and thinking, you're not trying. If it's all right if you deliver, if you've got that moments when you're delivering. Like I say, I hope that gives us the confidence to be able to do it. We know he's a talent, but there becomes a time when, like I did at Tottenham, where you just have to discard him and bring someone else in.
But what I was going to ask you, when you were making the point about, as a manager, giving him a role and just saying, right, that is now yours. That's your position. That's what I need you to do. It makes me think of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain when he moved from Arsenal to Liverpool, because the best period of his career was before he got that injury, after he'd moved to... Look, first game aside, but after he moved to Liverpool, where they gave him that specific job to do, and he flourished in it. And he was another player who nobody really knew what his best position was.
Yeah, I mean, for Kai, he must have thought, I'm a big money sign, I'm going to Arsenal, I'm going to play every single week. It's not panned out that way because of the...
But you're surprised that they didn't have a conversation where they said, you're coming in to do this, because that's normally part of it, isn't it?
And surely you knock on the door and say to the manager, or if you're the manager, the onus is on the manager really to say, I'd pull him in and say, where do you want to play? What's your best position? Where can I get the best out of you? Where can you give us the best, Kai Havertz? And let him answer it. But if he doesn't know his best position himself, he's seen the style of play now, he's had a good time to look at it, he's got to say, well, I'd like to play as a 10. I like to play. What I would do, a clever move, is find out where's the traffic in his way, find out where he's going to play more games, and I would say that's possibly an 8. He's not going to play a Martinelli role. He's not going to play a Saka role because he hasn't got...
No, or a 10, it's Odegaard.
Exactly, and Odegaard plays 8. You know, Odegaard's a different level to him, entirely. He can play 8, he can play 10, he works hard, he's got intensity, he's aggressive without the ball. This boy, I'm scratching my head to find out what is he good at. I know he's got talent. There's a load of players with talent, but have they got the whole cocktail. I don't think he has. I don't think he lacks work rate, and he's not that good to suffer not getting the ball back. I think at the moment, I think they should cash in.
Well, it's interesting, though, who Mikel Arteta does and doesn't have patience with and isn't prepared to work with, because it brings us back to the goalkeeping situation where Aaron Ramsdale is in goal for this game, looks nervous, by all accounts is getting a lot of instruction from Arteta from the touchline, some of which is constructive, some of which is critical, and looks nervous. I mean, look, you can make the argument he's an elite-level player. He should be able to deal with pressurised situations, and if called upon, he has to be able to deliver at the top of his game. But there's a human argument here, which is that his confidence will be damaged.
I think you're absolutely right, and I don't think this is about football. This is about confidence. This is about human frailty, and I think whatever job that we work in, ever, if you have the confidence of the people who you work for, you're going to do well. He doesn't have that confidence. Arteta clearly doesn't believe in him, which is why he's brought him in. He hasn't brought him in. I mean, that is the players have got confidence in him. The players admire and they respect him.
Do you know what I think, Darren? Almost patronising. That was bordering patronising for me. I think it was too over the top.
Yeah.
I know they want to keep him on side, but the guy knows he's a good goalkeeper. He's an international goalkeeper. He's been hit. This environment has been created by Mikel Arteta, right? And he's entitled to create whatever environment he wants. He's the manager of the football club. Is Raya that much better than him? The answer is no, on evidence we've seen. He's entitled to make whatever decision he makes. He's obviously got the Brentford goalkeeping coach there working at Arsenal now. And all the time he's there working with Ramsdale, he must have said to him, Raya's better than him, you know.
But don't you think, looking at those pictures, and I take that point about it being borderline patronising, but don't you think it's the players going out of their way to show, well, look, the manager might not fancy, but we don't know why he's gone with the other goalkeeper. We still...
They know he's had a tough time. They know that, you know, his dad's come out publicly and had he say, which I think he should have kept quiet, but it looked like it was almost over the top. I personally, I would have done it. I might have said to him, well done, mate, it's a clean sheet. You had a few dodgy moments there, but I would have done it in the dressing room. I think to that show in public, in front of the fans, it's almost like, look, we're behind him. It's all, and I was like, look, go away.
It's almost like it's showing everyone else that he's struggling.
Leave me alone, yeah.
It was a little bit over the top, I thought, as well, because as Tim was saying, and he's 100% right. If they were signing an Edison or an Alisson, you go, I get it. Yeah. I can understand. Ramsdale's a good goalkeeper, but you're not that level. The fact that him and Raya are like this, there's nothing between the two goalkeepers.
There's not much in them statistically, but I just wonder if either of you two have ever had a situation where you've got one player who, and look, Ramsdale is not a perfect goalkeeper, and there were certainly mistakes last season, and you could look at mistakes in big games as well. And the City one, Southampton, and the game against Manchester City at the Emirates as well. But and you can definitely point to those. So it's not that he's above criticism. It's more a case of if you're in a dressing room, like you said, the players are going over, and you're saying it's borderline patronising when they're being nice to him. He's clearly popular in the dressing room as well. But there's also the thing of, well, if they go over and they're really nice to Aaron Ramsdale, is David Raya then sitting there thinking, well, they don't even want me here? And so his confidence, because his performances, again, have at times looked a bit nervy. So it's a really odd dynamic. Have you ever...
just to go back to kind of where I was, because I think that is so true. And it is about confidence, because if last season we don't have this, because there's no David Raya and he's just going about his job. Ramsdale, we think he's going to step up this season because we've seen what he's done since he's come to the club from a relegated team in Sheffield United, and everyone doubted him, and then he kind of proved them wrong, and he's come and he's done well in the first couple of seasons, one competing for the top four, the second competing for the title. So we think he's going to push on, and then suddenly along comes Raya from the clouds, and everyone thinks, what's going on here? And it's a situation that Arteta's created. But as I said before, and, you know, everyone around the world watching this, if you are in a situation where people around you back you and have confidence in you, you don't even think about doing your job. Yeah. But if you have a situation like that, the simple things become difficult. And that's clearly what's happened with...
Do you think if them players were asked to pick a team and they had to pick a goalkeeper, how many would pick Raya? The relationship between that goalie coach who wanted Raya in, who'd been working with Ramsdale for a year prior, that relationship must be very frosty at the moment, you know. And to answer your question, I did have a situation where I was being frozen out, I felt, by the manager at Tottenham. And the guy who was playing in my position, time and time again, I was watching the games, I felt like I was better than him. I'm knocking on the manager's door saying, how is he playing in front of me? I need to be in the team. Because if I was a manager, I'd want that from a player coming in. Anyway, he got injured and they needed me and they had to come back to me. And I remember the assistant manager, after he got injured, coming up to me and saying, yeah, we'll get you back. You should be in the team anyway. You know, you should have been. I said, well, don't get away from me. You need to be telling that man there who's the manager. Don't come to me like whispering behind the manager's back.
Sweet nothings.
If you felt that was the way, you should have told him in the first place. But I know it's all flannel. It's just, you know, they're masking it. They're trying to keep me out.
You were a bit shy.
Yeah, I think once I come out of my shell,
He said, I'll tell you what we need from Tim. He needs to be knocking down my door every week.
every Monday it was like that. He was like, oh my God, it's him again.
But it is. And look, and the other thing as well is goalkeepers are they are in the firing line. That is their job. And they are so scrutinised. It is a position, which is why it's a unique position, in that every error they make is in the full public spotlight.
And to be fair, that's on us to a certain extent, because
but it's
us
also a positional
journalists
thing, isn't it? It's just the fact that they're there on their own.
And that's the important thing. Bang on, Kelly, because it's such a specialised position. If you look at all the teams who win things, it's always the same goalkeeper. Yeah. You know, Czech with Chelsea, De Gea, even in the decent years when Man United did well. Edison, obviously, with City, Alisson with Liverpool. And there's always it's always very definite and a certainty about it. If Arsenal don't achieve their objectives this season, the story will be that Arteta brought in a keeper when he didn't need to.
And also, those two keepers that you mentioned, Edison and Alisson, neither of them are infallible either. And in fact, Alisson was at fault for Manchester City's goal in the game at the Etihad. Yeah. And then, of course, if you make an error and the ball eventually ends up with Erling Haaland, you can kind of predict. You can kind of predict what's going to happen. I mean, it's just, he's just a phenomenon, the rate at which he's got to 50 goals in the Premier League. I mean, it's not just, you know, he's the fastest player to reach that, which sometimes we use these stats just to illustrate our conversation rather than because they're meaningful. But the speed at which he's got there compared to some of the greatest strikers that we've seen in the Premier League is just extraordinary. This isn't even a particularly clean shot from him, although we say that quite a lot, don't we? We're like, it's not textbook, but it's so effective.
Yeah, even his first touch, I mean, that there's incredible. I mean, it helps he's playing in that Manchester City team because they create loads of opportunities. And he's missed quite a fair few this season, to be fair, but still, you can't take anything away from that. 48 games to get to 50 Premier League goals is incredible. But he's like an old-fashioned centre-forward. He's quick, he's strong, he's always in the right place at the right time. Doesn't really want to link play. Obviously wants to be on the end of things. And I think, again, you play with the likes of De Bruyne's, Rodri's, Bernardo Silva's, these guys, you're always going to score goals in that team for sure.
And that's a guy who's come in from a foreign land. And we're talking about Kai Havertz. You know, it didn't take for him time to settle. It's because of the environment.
Yeah.
It's because of the environment. It's down to the manager. Well, you create an environment in the position where he plays. There's only one place we can play him.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't think Pep has to ask him, what is your best position?
I love the idea that Edison gets sent off in a game. They're like, Erling? Outfield players and goalkeepers. I love all that.
From there, probably.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't put it past him. But Manchester City, we know, are not reaching the heights that they are capable of reaching, that we've seen them reach in the past. What do you think is going wrong for them? Because you look at each area of the pitch and you're like, defenders look like they're having a good season. Edison doesn't look like he's dropped off. They're playing well in midfield, maybe missing De Bruyne playing well in midfield. Obviously, Haaland, maybe not quite at last season's standards, but again, we're being very picky there. And so where is it not quite right for them?
I think it's De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne's there. The understanding that he's got with Haaland, they win the games that they've lost or they've drawn. Defensively, they're fine. Obviously, they had that blip where they didn't have Rodri for 3 games. Had they had him, I think they wouldn't have lost those games. But I think as far as City are concerned, relatively speaking, I actually think they're in better shape than they generally are for this time of the season, because normally at this stage of the season, they're sort of finding their way through and then they hit top gear at turn of the year. Now, relatively speaking, I think they're undefeated in their last 8 in all competitions. but it is just in that final third where they're a bit disjointed, and De Bruyne not being there, and the understanding that he's got with Haaland. How can I forget his name? Oh my God.
He's a big guy,
Same time next week? No, but the understanding that De Bruyne has with Haaland is such that he can find a way through any defence, and at the moment it's not.
Do you know, I think it's teething problems as well. I mean, they lose Gundogan as well. It's a big player for them. Box up with big goals in big games. Trying to replace him as well. They lost Mahrez as well. These guys, it's just the teething problems with Kovacic and is it Nunez? They've got the Nunez as well. So I think he's just trying to find that chemistry. But as you said there, once De Bruyne comes back and then he has his team set, then I expect them again to go win as they always do every year.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting because with De Bruyne coming back round about Christmas time, isn't it, for him? And then January transfer window coming up. If Liverpool get that defensive midfielder position sorted, if Arsenal sort out their goalkeeping position one way or another and start kicking on, it could be really and a striker for them in the transfer window could be really, really interesting what happens in the second half of the season.
Well, the question is, will this be liftoff? It's his first goal in open play. His other goal was a penalty at Bournemouth, Dion. We were just talking off air. This is a man who plays for Germany regularly, scored the winning goal in the Champions League final. Arsenal paid a huge amount of money for him. Don't think maybe we quite know what his best position is. Maybe that's because he's a very good footballer who can play lots of different positions.
That's not helping him, though, is it?
Well, it's not. And you just wonder whether... Is it too easy to sit here and go, every player needs a sort of lift-off moment and this might be it?
Yeah, it may be. It might be. I hope it is for his sake. But impact. You have to impact a game when you're being bought for that kind of money. You have to affect football matches, and he hasn't. I don't know where he plays. I don't know what his strengths are. Is he fast? Is he good at heading? That one was an easy header at the far post. He has to score. You know, I don't know what his game is. Is he worth £65 million? Well, no, not at the moment, because he's done nothing at all. Nothing at Chelsea didn't work out. Nothing at Arsenal. There's a player in there, but bring him out. Show us what you've got. And at the moment, he's got to do more.
Yeah, I think he played left-back for Germany last week, so maybe confusion. The German manager doesn't know where his best position is. I mean, he struggled at Chelsea, Mark. There's no getting away from that. He struggled, and when Arteta paid 65 million, we're all going, I didn't see that coming. But then there's, I think, moments in anyone's career at a new football club, and this is his moment. This is his moment when he steps up and goes, we need this to stay at the top of the league, obviously, after this goal goes in.
How good is Saka at that ball? He did it at Chelsea for the equaliser. It's like a corridor of uncertainty, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean... Defending-wise, you say to Brentford, get him on his right foot, because that left foot is a wand of the left foot. You know, it's a brilliant ball, and it's a good header.
What is your view on the whole Arsenal goalkeeping situation and the way that it's been dealt with? Because the blunt truth is, if a manager thinks that goalkeeper A is better than goalkeeper B, he picks goalkeeper A, whatever the previous history of goalkeeper B. But how do you feel Arteta has gone about it all?
Not great, to be honest. I think at the time I was asked the question, and I think I said he signed a problem in David Raya. He signed himself a problem as a manager. Who do I pick? Who do I play? No, he was talking maybe like a politician. You know, I've got 2 number 1s and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as he got the opportunity, he put Raya straight in the team. Now, Ramsdale played yesterday because he had to. It was against Brentford, of course. And there's a big moment, obviously, in the first half. It could have cost him
Declan Rice got him out of trouble.
Yeah, it could have cost him very, very dearly, you know. But then has Arteta's decision to bring Raya in really affected Ramsdale's confidence now? Because there was so much pressure on Ramsdale yesterday for that game, and I've never seen him do it once last season, that mistake yesterday, for example. So I don't know where Ramsdale goes from here. If it was me personally, I would want to be playing. I'd want to be out playing, because the Euros is next summer and stuff, and you know, he needs to get playing regularly. And I think Ray will come back in the team now.
He was flying, though.
Yeah, no.
Wasn't he? He was flying. Ramsdale was the man. He was vocal. He was commanding his box. His distribution
he had personality
was good.
in the goal.
Personality.
You know, he strikes me as someone last year, for me, who's one of the players of the season. And maybe that's why we're talking about it so much, because we're all a wee bit shocked that he's changed his goalkeeper. Now, yesterday, look at this. This is totally unlike Ramsdale. You know, when we think his head's scrambled because so much stuff's going on off the pitch, you know. And Arteta, as a manager, and especially a goalkeeper in that position, Mark, you need your manager to trust you. You need to have the confidence, and I think Ramsdale have lost that confidence of his manager now.
And all that makes complete sense. But he's from the school of Pep Guardiola, Arteta, clearly, isn't he? The way Arsenal play. Yeah. And Pep is utterly ruthless if he needs to be, as all the best managers are. Sir Alex was. Yeah. And that seems to me, that's what Arteta's done. You were a very good goalkeeper, but I think this chap, for whatever reason, we don't know, is 1% better, so I'm picking him. That's just the nature of elite-level sport, isn't it?
I would disagree with that, but I don't think he is better. From a goalkeeping point of view, and I think I know a wee bit about it. As I
well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? That every goalkeeper says.
Yeah. You know, you could argue that David Raya is better with the ball at his feet, and had a brilliant time at Brentford. Of course he did, but I think big moments and big saves. I think Ramsdale, you know, is above David Raya. So I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens next.
Last one, I've just said he went to the school of Pep Guardiola. Arsenal are different this season, aren't they? They're not as dynamic. They're not as good to watch, to be blunt. But they got a lot more control. You could see that sort of evolution.
Well, you mentioned Rice there as well, clearing that one off the line for Ramsdale. I think he's a huge sign.
Well, he's been
Rice is like
he's
a leader on the pitch. I think probably off the pitch as well. He gets them all together, and someone like that can make a big difference in a championship side as well. But I still think Man City will be very difficult.
And I think it's not a problem for the Arsenal fans to see a different game if they're getting better results. You know, if it means they've got a bit more solid and not play as quick and a bit more defensive, who cares? They've got all the players they need to score goals. On the break, they're ridiculously quick as well. So I don't think the Arsenal fans will be bothered.
No, because they can see where they might be able to graft on.
Correct, exactly.
Players and
stay as close to City as possible. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's basically it.
Stay in the game, stay in the league.
Correct.
As in, stay with the leaders.
Absolutely.
Erling Haaland, their fastest to 50 goals in Premier League history. By some distance, by the way.
He's going to have to pull his finger out.
There are some serious goal scorers on that list. And he's left them all in the shade. Quite remarkable. A goal a game, pretty much, in the Premier League. Do you think, before we get on to Haaland goal, bearing in mind they've been all the way around the world, effectively, haven't they, both teams? 12:30 is quite a big ask on a Saturday. To what extent do you think Man City will be a bit frustrated, particularly bearing in mind, I don't know, the first hour and the amount of possession they had?
Yeah, I think they had the better chances, and even looking at the sort of highlights package we just showed there, I think they were the better team and better chances. But again, any game of football, 1-0, you always give the opposition a chance, and Alexander-Arnold had a brilliant finish, didn't he, for his goal? You know, a touch and a sharp finish gave Ederson no chance. But yeah, I agree. I think 12:30 after international break is tough on both teams. I think Klopp was quoted as saying, I think he had a 30-minute session on the Friday, you know, to prepare for such a big game, which was a very tough schedule for them.
In fact, all three post-international Saturdays, Liverpool have been on at 12:30. It was not his favourite kick-off time. But Liverpool, knowing that the quality they have, Dion, knew, as Shea said, as long as they stayed in the game, they were confident that they would create something from which
they always will with the front three and the quality of, well, we've seen Trent's goal as well, but they'll create lots of chances. It's just converting them. Darwin's not having the best of times in regards converting the chances he's getting himself into. But if it's 1-0, as Shea said, you've got a chance, you know, all the way through the game. And I think in the end that result was about right for me.
OK, let's talk about Erling Haaland then. And actually, when we see the goal from where it starts from a goalkeeper's point of view, there are probably actually two reasons that Alisson will be a bit frustrated with himself. Here's the first, obviously, that's a bit of a shank.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shank, Mark, you're right. But how many times have you seen Alisson do that and zing Salah or somebody in on a 1v1 situation? He's got that in the locker. And then, you know, he'll talk about hitting it quick. And I think it's that second touch, it just gets it out of his feet, Haaland. And then I think, I'm not sure if Alisson's quite set, but when you get a strong hand like that, you feel like that a keeper of his sort of stature and calibre will look at it probably in the cold light of today, for example, and say, I should have done better, perhaps, and got it around the post.
It's amazing that early on in that clip, you see Haaland, when Alisson shanks in, it just goes up in the air. Haaland sprints to get back on side again, you know, just to give himself a chance of scoring a goal. All those little things that people might not see. And I've said it to you before, that preparation before the finished, getting on side, checking his shoulders, his first touch, second touch. Give the keeper no chance.
I think the greatest compliment we can pay Erling Haaland is that we're not surprised he's reached 50 goals so quickly in the league, are we? No. After everything that we saw he did, you know, in the continent to start with, particularly in Germany, I think, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say this is almost what we expected of him because this is the reputation he came with.
And the managers expected, you know, his managers, he's brought him in for that reason, you know, get me lots of goals. I'll get you lots of chances, just put yourself in there. And you can see that City have changed slightly because he's in the side.
What about Jeremy Doku? What an impact he has had. And do you think, you know, he's so direct, isn't he? His first thought is, I'm going to run at the defender. And obviously, this is something that Pep Guardiola has encouraged him to do. I mention it in that way because there's a lot of conversation about Jack Grealish and whether he's been coached so much by Pep Guardiola, he doesn't do this quite as naturally.
Well, they're just slightly different players, if I'm being honest, Mark. Doku's very direct, very quick, and his strength is running at people 1v1 situations. But what I like about Doku as well, he's got a bit of calmness at the end of it all. Sometimes you see a fast winger or someone with pace, and everything's rushed in, the cross is rushed or the shot's rushed. But just at the crucial moment for me, he does the right thing, you know, be it the way to pass or be it get a shot on goal. But as a defender, even like Trent Alexander-Arnold, any top fullback in world football, how do you defend against this guy? Like, he's so quick, so fast.
He is. And defenders will panic once he's gone past them. Defenders will panic for that reason, because he's now getting his head up, picking the right pass, picking the right finish. And yeah, I like him.
It's supposed to take some time to assimilate to the
yeah, and the good thing as well, because when he does get into an area as a centre forward, you can start to make your movements and your runs.
Yeah.
Because
you can start to anticipate what he's going to do.
Correct.
Yeah, and also teams will have to probably try and double up on him. And what happens, that creates space somewhere else, doesn't it? Especially when you're playing a team like Man City. If he's getting 2 players on him, you know, there's a free player in the box, like we just seen there, Haaland in the box, and it's an all good save from Alisson. But he's a real bright spark for sure.
But Trent Alexander-Arnold, despite the fact that he had quite a tough afternoon against Doku, got his goal, got what he deserved. And Alexander-Arnold in a more advanced position now. We can see that there's a goal threat in there as much as anything.
Yeah, listen, if anybody likes to strike the ball, it's Trent, isn't it? And you spoke about how quick he took it as well, Shane.
Yeah, again, for a goalkeeper, Mark, he sort of takes that touch and hits it. I think you said it sat up nice for him, you know. But the thing is, for a goalkeeper, when you hit it that quick, sometimes you're not set. Ederson might be just moving forward at that. And even if, to be fair, even if Ederson had been fully set, I still think he wouldn't have got it. It's a brilliant finish. I think Gakpo makes a brilliant run as well to create that little space. And it's a quality finish.
It was amazing. The Gakpo run just opens up the space. So Alexander-Arnold, his brains go, right now.
No.
You know, there's the chance.
And we've seen him join in
midfield.
We've seen him join in midfield now as well, how comfortably is he. I think he's probably not a fullback anymore. He's that good going forward. He's a very good
He doesn't think he's a... No, he doesn't want to be a fullback anymore, does he? Right, one of the big talking points at 1-0, I think we know what we're going to get from the goal.
Yes, we do.
At 1-0, disallowed goal for Manchester City. They thought they'd gone 2-0 up. Chris Foy is with us. Chris, as we have a look at this, and the whistle went very quickly for Akanji's foul on the goalkeeper. As we're looking at it here now, Chris, did you think this was the right decision?
Yeah, I did. I mean, Chris Cabana was the referee. I mean, the biggest game in the world, wasn't it? And he blows the whistle very early. There's quite clearly a tug on the arm by Akanji. He jumps into Alisson, the goalkeeper, and it's clearly a foul. I don't have any problem with it.
Well, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is.
OK, I'll start with the centre-forward.
Now, the reason why it is a free kick, in my opinion, because Akanji's not really gone to head it. You know, he's gone to impede. And I think he's chose what to do. He's chose to impede, not to try and head it. Yeah, so it's a free kick.
I mean, jokes aside, you understand sometimes as viewers around the world, we go, you know, there's like an exclusion zone around the goalkeeper. You can't...
It's been like that for years.
It just depends how big it is.
I disagree with it. I've got lots of scars underneath the shirt to show you that I've got a few
for that one,
challenges.
what, you think that Akanji is stopping Alisson getting his arms up?
I think if Akanji sort of bumps into him, say his lower part of the body or something, then it maybe not a foul. But because he's gone up with his arms, Akanji bumps his arms. You can't catch the ball there, Mark. So for me, it's a clear foul. It's the right decision.
Chris, we're looking at it again. What about Chris Kavanagh? We talk a lot about the footballers here. What about Chris Kavanagh's games? You said the biggest game of the weekend, probably the biggest game in the world at the weekend. And there's a lot going on in England at the moment about Premier Leagues and VAR and respect and referees. What about an assessment of his game overall?
I thought he judged his involvement perfectly. As we say, it was a massive game. He stayed out the way when he had to. He got involved when he had to. Kept his cards in his pocket. I think there was only a couple of cautions in the game. Managed the players. The players were respectful, and it added to the spectacle of a fantastic game of Premier League football.
Absolutely. Chris, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much indeed. And I think it just further reinforces what we think, that Liverpool, maybe along with us, we're going to see, but particularly Liverpool are the team who are going to be closest to Manchester City to try and stop the four in a row.
I did say that before the season.
Yeah.
No, I did. I said, like, I fancied Liverpool this season to come back with a vengeance, because obviously they had a dip last year, missed out in the Champions League, and I think that would have hurt them as well. They refreshed the whole midfield, of course, and brought in new players. So Bowsley, I like a lot. He's a brilliant player in that midfield, and I think they'll be the closest coming end of the season.
Look like they've got their hunger back, don't they, Liverpool?
Yeah, and a little bit of quality as well, like creating loads of chances. But that's the problem for me at the moment. It's just Diaz and Nunez, they're not quite finishing as clinical as they should be.
No, like Salah does.
Absolutely.
I'm Derek Ray, here on the commentary position, joined by Lee Dixon to help me describe all the action, and everyone here on tenterhooks, you'd have to say with good reason. It is Manchester City, and they take on Swindon Town.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. I'm really looking forward to this. Both teams certainly capable of producing some entertaining football. Hopefully we'll get that.
Mahrez. De Bruyne at the ready. Well, they couldn't take advantage of the opportunity. Just couldn't get it through. And here's the Manchester City lineup. Ederson gets the nod in goal. Alexander Zinchenko starts with Joao Cancelo in the fullback positions. Kevin De Bruyne starts with Rodri in central midfield. And the responsibility of leading the line goes to Gabriel Jesus. I must say, Lee, respect and admiration grows for Kevin De Bruyne with each passing year. So many attributes. What are you looking for from the Belgian in this game?
He's on the ball all the time, and his ability on the ball is absolutely phenomenal. He doesn't pass the ball away, he lends it to his teammates because he wants it back. Very difficult to get the ball off him.
And it's Gabriel Jesus. Keeper had work to do. Well, he's given a corner, the referee. And they deal with the threat this time. Rodri. Gabriel Jesus now. Well, cleared away over the byline, and a corner kick to come. Gives it a go. Outrageously good piece of defending on the line. De Bruyne. Well, no stopping him. Teammate available. No problems grabbing hold of that one. Working brilliantly as a team to force the clearance. It will be a throw.